Hello and welcome to A Course in Miracles 365. I'm your host, Tomas Garza, and I'm so happy that you're joining me here on the live stream today, because as always here with A Course in Miracles, especially with the workbook for students that we're going through, we're dealing with some very deep level truths and fundamental stuff. Fundamental stuff from the standpoint of completely undoing the ego. Yeah, like completely. And undoing our perception of the world, undoing our perception of ourselves, undoing our perception of everyone and everything around us. Some just real essential stuff going on. I love it. And I hope you're loving it as well. If this is something that is new to you, welcome. I'm glad you've tuned in. We're going through what we call the Workbook for Students of A Course in Miracles, which is one of three components to the course itself. And we're doing this on this live stream because it's a daily live stream, and the workbook is a series of daily lessons that we've been going through. So if you're just joining us, I really want to invite you to tune in to the very first of these. They're all available here on Enlightened World Network's YouTube channel, which we're streaming to right now. And you can just go back and go right through all of them. Because if you want to start the workbook, also reach out to me. As well, if you don't mind, because I would be happy to help you and answer any of your questions along the way. As we find out in any journey, in any spiritual journey at all, it is completely 100% shared. It is a shared journey. So I thank you for joining me here today. So we're on to lesson 17 in the workbook today. And what we're looking at is the fact that we have no neutral thoughts. Therefore, lesson 17, I see no neutral things. Because I don't have any neutral thoughts, I don't see anything that is neutral. And if that sounds abstract, let's go into a little bit of detail on what the workbook is really talking about here. It's talking about the fact that we in the world simply do not see things the way they really are. We've looked at the truth that we're having thoughts, and they're either loving thoughts or they're fear-based thoughts, which lead to anxiety and depression and stress and anger, rage, lashing out at one another, war, genocide, things like that. And then we also have loving thoughts, which are peaceful. They lead to peace, tranquility, joy, happiness, loving relationships, truly loving relationships. And we're having, most of us, a mix of these. One moment we could be off thinking something really bitter, really angry, right? Really even full of rage, if we're willing to honestly examine what's coming up for us. And then 5 seconds later, we could see something that we love, like a picture of a baby or a small child or a cat or a dog, a beautiful tree, maybe a flower, and think a very loving thought of, oh, this is wonderful. I feel great. Most of us are finding ourselves caught in this yo-yo between the two. We don't have neutral thoughts, and we are either having thoughts about love or fear. Happily for us, happily for all of us, the fear-based thoughts are not real. And I've said that a couple of times here because the Course says it all the time. And it has here in the workbook. Fear-based thoughts are not real. If that is something that sounds highly bizarre, weird to you, implausible, no problem. No problem. The workbook is wonderful because it simply asks us to take the lessons at face value and just use the day's idea. So how do we use today's idea and what does it mean? I see no neutral things. Well, we have no neutral thoughts, therefore we see no neutral things. This is very fundamental because the way that the world perceives things, and in other words, the way we perceive things in the world when we think we're running around as separately independent things called human beings. What is that? It's a term. It's a word that we made up, isn't it? Right? When we think we're running around all separately, yeah, we have a common belief, and it's nothing more than a simple mistake. We believe things and see things completely backwards. In truth, it's always the thought that comes first. And as we saw yesterday here on the live stream, our thoughts are so powerful that they create worlds. They create literally entire worlds. Your thoughts create your experience. Now, here in the world, we think it's the other way around. It's not. The thought is always first. But here in the world, we're taught, all of us, it's not our fault. This is one thing that's very, very important about all spiritual growth, all spiritual practice. It's not worth our feeling guilty about seeing things backwards because it's not our fault that we're seeing things backwards. We were raised to see things backwards. Our parents were raised to see things backwards. Their parents were raised to see things backwards. Here in the world, what I mean by this is that we believe that the situation out there, we put out there in quotation marks, right? Because it's not out there. We believe that the world out there just is, and it's our lot in life to experience it. Therefore, we have to respond to that. We have to react to that world. We have to react to the situations that we see. And it takes any form imaginable. And in fact, it's backwards. It's our thoughts that create it. Therefore, they're not neutral. Our thoughts create it. Therefore, what we see is not neutral. It can't be. Literally, quite literally, we see no neutral things at all. So what does this look like in terms of practice? Well, the workbook has very short commentary today for lesson 17 on this. Simply, it says to apply this idea with your eyes open, looking around you today. I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts, right? I do not see a neutral computer screen because my thoughts about computer screens are not neutral. Okay, and this actually says this here in the workbook. I do not see a neutral body because my thoughts about bodies are not neutral. Okay, let's stop right there. How true is that in real life, in practice? Yes, right here in the world. How true is that? We have no neutral thoughts about bodies. We look at ourselves in the mirror and sometimes we think, oh, well, I'm really gorgeous, right? You think you're gorgeous one day, and then the next day you could think, I'm kind of having a bad hair day. Yeah, I got a little gray going on here. I don't know. I'm not feeling it. Not a neutral thought. We could look in the mirror and look at ourselves on a computer screen, like I'm doing right now, looking into a camera, and think, okay, well, I've been working out. Or this feels good, or gosh, I need to lose weight. You might look at yourself and think you may need to lose weight. You might think that you need to gain weight. People say, oh, I don't know. I don't like my nose. I don't know about my eyebrows. My earlobe's really long. What's up with that? But we don't have any neutral thoughts, for example. Now, this is a great example, and I'm really happy that the workbook uses it, that we don't have neutral thoughts about bodies. Who among us has neutral thoughts about a body? Nobody. We look at other people and we think, oh, they're beautiful or they're not. Yeah, everybody has those thoughts. And we don't think of computer screens as neutral either. Either we think, oh, this is great, this is working, there's no lag, the volume's on, the camera's on, there's plenty of light, or if something's spinning its wheels, it's not working. Maybe our Wi-Fi is having trouble on a given day. Right? They're not neutral thoughts. We just don't have neutral thoughts. Why? We see no neutral things. Yeah, we don't see any neutral things at all. And that's today's lesson here in the workbook. So as always, as you go through these exercises, it's really important just to apply the exercise to whatever comes to mind. On days where you have your eyes closed and you're examining your thoughts, it's important, if a thought comes up, to just apply the idea for the day to that. Today, with eyes open, it's what do you see? Well, I see a body, I see a computer screen, I see a rug behind me, I see a shirt, whatever it is. I see a wall, I see a painting, I see a mask, I see a light switch, whatever it is. It's important not to skip over something and just apply the idea to whatever you see today. And on days where you're examining your own mind, apply the idea to whatever comes to your mind. And that's really all that the workbook asks of us. So why are we doing this? You might wonder. Well, it's fundamental, and our perception in the world is backwards. It's backwards. This is one of the ways that we can begin to undo the backward nature of our perception here in the world. All right, so let's see who's tuning in here on the live stream today. All right, Andrea, Katie, hello. Yes, Deidre, hello. How are you? Thank you for sharing. And Nathan, thank you for joining us. And Maria, hi, how are you? I welcome your questions here on the live stream as well. I thank you all for tuning in. One of the things that I like to do is take questions and comments here live. So anytime you join in, feel welcome to type something here in the comments. If I don't get to it on the stream itself, then I will get to it later on in the day. So feel welcome. I'm here to answer any of your questions. And really, I'm always curious how this is going for you, because when we commit to something like A Course in Miracles, when we commit to a spiritual path at all, whether it's meditation or yoga or an exercise regimen, whatever that looks like, it's a process, isn't it? It's a process, and the workbook is just a perfect example of that. It's a day-to-day process that we go through. And yes, hello everybody that's tuning in. Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on here. So as you commit to a process, this is really important. And it doesn't matter how many times we say this is true, is that you're going to have days where you really resonate with the idea for the day, and it really, really makes sense to you. And you think, okay, well, that's actually quite logical. It's beyond conventional logic. It makes sense to you. It's something that you feel, and then you're going to have ideas that you actively resist. And the workbook even says this. You're going to have ideas where you think, what is this? I don't think so. And that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. It's normal for the ego to be putting up some serious resistance sometimes. Why? The ego is fear. So naturally, fear is afraid of what? Its own irrelevance, its own non-existence, its own complete non-existence. So the ego will find any way to push back. It'll be this voice on your shoulder telling you, well, this idea doesn't make any sense. Don't do this practice for the day. Now, you got something else to do, right? You can scroll Facebook. You've got something else to do. You've got work to do, right? It'll try anything and do anything to try to distract you from seeing that it's nothing. Ultimately, and yes, that does mean that for countless lifetimes we've listened to nothing, quite literally. And it doesn't make us bad. It just means we've simply made a mistake in the moment. Course in Miracles, spiritual practice, meditation, non-dual self-inquiry, whatever it is, there are ways for us to just, in the moment, right now, correct that perception and show up again in the very next moment and do the same thing again and again. And yes, it's a process, it's practice. And I do hope that you're finding this enjoyable and that you're able to go through all of this, going through the workbook from lesson 1 to lesson 365 is a tremendous accomplishment in its own right. And my hope is that in doing this, you will be able to take a look back a year from now and think, wow, I'm a different person. I'm more loving, I'm more forgiving, I'm more flexible, I laugh more, I feel lighter, I'm more joyful, I'm happier, I'm more friendly. All of that, that's what we're going for. And it's a process, it's practice, and it happens a step at a time. And I'm happy to be here with you on your process and your practice to be able to share my own experiences with you. So I thank you so much for tuning in. This has been A Course in Miracles 365, and I will see you all again tomorrow. Talk to you soon.